Birth of Jesus here in San Antonio, Catholics are welcoming a different sort of new life on the Northwest Side. Eyewitness News reporter Sue Kalberg reports on the moving dedication of a new church site.
You're like Mary and Joseph on the way to your new home, aren't you?
Right.
Like the story of travelers so long ago, these pilgrims came to a wild place near the bustle of a busy neighborhood to celebrate history being made.
This is our first capital campaign since 1955.
To accommodate explosive growth,
Mary, Mother of the Church.
they're making room for more.
Nothing like bubbly.
Along with that comes a projected 200,000 new Catholics coming in the next 10 years.
The On the Way, On Belay capital campaign, in many ways, is about building up that legacy of our founders.
We need this church in the worst way.
They're building new churches and schools.
It's kind of hard to be in an environment that's not a Catholic school because there's a lot of people who are trying to tempt you to do bad things and stuff like that.
The goal of their campaign is $60 million.
Our help is from the Lord.
They have 40.
Holy Mary, Mother of God.
They're praying the Lord and the faithful will provide. Sue Kalberg, KENS 5, Eyewitness News.